All right, now, I don't want to get all conspiracy theory or tinfoil hat here, but I do have to say that there have been a few questions about the legitimacy of the race for Los Angeles mayor after Republican Spencer Pratt lost out and wound up in third place after left-wing city council member Nia Rahman advanced in after the polling day mail-in votes. Now, President Donald Trump was quick to call out what he believed was potential voter fraud, and we wait to see what comes out of any investigation for that. But for those who say there is no election fraud in California, well, I would note that the Department of Justice just prosecuted a woman called Brenda Brown for allegedly paying homeless people to register to vote under false addresses. Have a look.
Brenda Lee Brown Armstrong admitted she used to pay people on Skid Row $2 or $3 to sign ballot initiative petitions and gave homeless people her address to use so they could register to vote.
Well, very curious that. Anyway, to talk about this and more, let's bring in our next guest, Republican strategist and former spokesman for Senator Ted Cruz, Ron Nehring. Ron, welcome to the program. Now, I was absolutely fascinated by this whole primary process in California. It's pretty much unlike anything you see anywhere else. And I was very interested, particularly in how that third place candidate got a very late surge of votes. Many are saying they came from areas with a lot of homeless people in them and that sort of thing, suggesting that clip we just saw. What did you make of the sudden surge by Nitya Raman to overtake Spencer Pratt and deny a Republican candidate the chance to run for mayor of Los Angeles?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was chairman of the California Republican Party here for 4 years from 2007 to 11 when Governor Schwarzenegger was governor. And we know that the system here in California has lots of problems that undermine faith in the system. Part of what you see happening is that Republican voters in Los Angeles, number one, keep in mind, are outnumbered by Democrats by about 4-1. Democrats outnumber independents by 2-1. The Republicans tend to vote early. They tend to be older. They receive their ballot. They vote early, and those ballots are counted early. The Democrats decided late. Many of their votes came in later, and those tend to be counted later. And that's why you see on election day, the ballots that were counted or those that came in first, they tend to lean more Republican than the rest of the electorate. And then the ballots that came in a little bit later tended to lean more toward the two Democrats. The Democrat voters cast their votes later. They split in favor of the two Democratic candidates. And so it shouldn't be a surprise that Spencer Pratt, who, by the way, I think ran a terrific campaign. He has a very bright future in the Republican Party. But he was a first-time candidate who was running for office in a city where the Democrats have 55% of the voters and Republicans only 14%. So it was an uphill climb for him from the beginning.
It was an uphill climb, and, I don't think anybody really expected him to win, but a lot of people were just curious about how that late tranche of ballots, the ones that came in after Election Day, and we know all sorts of things about how you can practically register to vote with a coffee card in California, these days. They make it so loose and so open. It did create an air of concern that only one of the two left-wing candidates had a huge surge. I would have thought that statistically speaking, you would have seen the same sort of numbers of votes for both Bass and Rahman, perhaps even more for Bass and Rahman, because she was the more prominent candidate.
I think what you saw is that those voters who knew early on that they were going to vote for Mayor Bass, as amazing as that is for someone to decide,
Yeah.
or if they were voting for Spencer Pratt, they made their decision early. I think what you saw is that the late deciding Democrats voted for the non-incumbent mayor over the incumbent mayor. And that's why Councilmember Rahman, who, by the way, will be a terrible mayor, she will be just like Mamdani if she happens to win. And Karen Bass has been a disaster for the city. It's really tragic. I really think that if Spencer Pratt had gotten into the runoff, even though Republicans are outnumbered in the city by 4-1, he would have had a very, very good shot because his message resonated. And in a binary choice between Mayor Bass and Spencer Pratt, you vote for either the status quo or change. And I think change would have won in that case. As it is, I think that Mayor Bass has a disadvantage going into this runoff because everybody knows her, and yet a majority of voters voted for someone other than the mayor. The rule of thumb is if you're an incumbent and you're polling under 50%, you're in trouble.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a really interesting thing. And you mentioned Mayor Mamdani a moment ago. And what's happened in LA under Karen Bass is disgraceful. I'm not just talking about the fires. Anybody who's watching who's been through LA, been to Santa Monica, been through the city, knows what it's like. Are we in this dangerous situation in the United States where Democrat socialists like Mamdani, like Diti Raman, they wind up taking the reins in and ruining America's great cities?
Yeah, I think you can't have a great country unless you have great cities.
Amen.
That's just the reality of the matter, right? And so I've been to Australia many, many times. I was in Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, just a few weeks ago. Australia has wonderful cities that if you come to many parts of American cities, they cannot hold a candle to what you have in Australia. And that's because the left has been able to do whatever they wanted to in these cities, like New York, like Los Angeles, like San Francisco. And it's really unpleasant. You've seen the failure of these radical left-wing ideas time and time and time again. And they only come up with the same answers: give more needles to drug addicts, allow our streets, parks, sidewalks, public places to be taken over as open-air drug markets, have the complete collapse of any deterrent against crime, and provide endless welfare benefits for people who are in the country legally, as well as those who are in the country illegally, creating a magnet for illicit conduct and behavior. And that's what we have in some of these cities. And it's vitally important that we put these cities on a better trajectory, because change is possible. Look at what President Trump has been able to accomplish in Washington, D.C., where he has a unique ability, because of the federal nature of the district, that the city has gotten dramatically safer and dramatically better looking in just the last 2 years because of President Trump. It shows that our cities can be turned around, but it requires the right leadership, the right policies.
Ron Neri, we're going to have to leave it there. So much fascinating stuff to talk about, but we'll catch up again real soon. Thanks for your time.